Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Northside Baseball video. You might be thinking to yourself, well, there's not a lot going on right now. We don't know what's happening with Alex Bregman. Things are spooky scary right now. But Brandon and I have something very important we'd like to talk about, and that is with spring training on the horizon, we have a lot of thoughts on players we'd like to talk about and what we'd like to see this season. I'm going to quickly bring up a player. Brandon's going to quickly bring up a player, and then we're going to converge in the middle and talk about a player together. So, the player I want to quickly bring up is Ben Brown. Ben Brown, we saw a little bit of him last season when Justin Steele got out with an injury. We saw him a little bit in May, and then unfortunately he was injured himself. It was part of that just wipeout of pitchers, of starting pitchers in the 2024 season. But I gotta say that I was just really impressed with the young kid of Ben Brown. He was a strikeout pitcher. He didn't have a huge amount of experience, but again, he did his job. He did it great. And I'm very excited to see what 2025 and spring training has to offer. Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've written plenty of articles here on the site about Ben Brown. I think he's a really good pitcher. I think I'm probably higher on him than a lot of other people. When he was a prospect and I was doing my prospect rankings for Northside Baseball, he was consistently in my top 10, scratching my top five. I think he has the potential to be a number three starter in the major leagues. I don't quite think he's number two or number one material, but I mean, he's got a great lively fastball. He's got one of the best curveballs I've seen from a young pitcher. I think he's just a really talented guy. Obviously, he had the neck injury last year, which was really scary. It kept him out for the entire second half of the year. But like you said, Ethan, he's a strikeout pitcher. He's got really, really good stuff, which plays up in a Cubs rotation that's more about pitchability. And so if he's healthy this year, I hope he runs away with a starting pitcher job. And speaking of starting pitchers, who I'm really excited for in the 2025 season, my boy Jordan Wicks. Again, another guy I've written a lot about, another guy I'm really high on. He's got one of the best changeups in the entire organization. He's a really good lefty arm. He's been durable when he's healthy. When I should say, when he's on the mound, he can give you length. It's just obviously a question of can he stay healthy? And he's a guy I really want the Cubs to push in 2025, so long as he's healthy. I don't want them to just, I don't want him to get a couple starts where he maybe struggles and the Cubs just give up and stash him in the bullpen or throw him back down to the minor leagues. I know this is a season where they need to be competitive. I know this is a season where they're expected to win the NL Central, but this is a guy who can be a really key piece of the future in the rotation. I really hope they push Jordan Wicks in 2025.
Yeah, it's always good to see a lefty pitcher come up onto the mound, especially somebody like Jordan Wicks. I always get excited when I hear Boog Shambi, the announcer for Wrigley Field, just saying Jordan Wicks' name. I'm always a fan of a lefty pitcher, and we don't have many on our roster. So again, I'm right there with you. Now let's talk about our player that we've chosen again together, uh, Miguel Amaya,
Yeah.
the catcher that filled in the shoes of Yan Gomes, somebody that probably not many people were so sad to leave the Cubs, but that's maybe that's a little controversial. I don't know how controversial that is, but Brandon, your thoughts on Amaya?
Yeah, another player we've talked about quite a bit, but he's going to be 26 years old throughout this season. He has had his ups and downs in the big leagues. He hasn't quite shown the power that he was known for earlier in his minor league career. Obviously, he had that Tommy John surgery at one point, which is obviously bizarre for a catcher. But he came back strong. He's now been in the majors for a couple seasons. Look, he's the unquestioned starter. Unlike last year when Yan Gomes was there, Miguel Amaya is the absolute starting catcher for the Cubs going into 2025. They signed Carson Kelly, but he's purely a backup. And so yeah, I mean, this is going to be a make or break season for him. If he shows out, if he, hits for a little bit more power at the plate, he produced 100 weighted runs created plus last season. He was a perfectly league average bat, which for a catcher is quite good. It's just he needs to keep growing with the glove. He needs to keep growing comfortable with the starting pitchers and game calling. And again, a little bit more power from him at the bottom of the lineup. And I think the Cubs have a really good quality starting catcher.
I think defensively also, just looking at Amaya, he's great. When it comes to stolen bases, he doesn't let up on that. And also, I mean, he's not small per se, but he's not. I always like to use the word like chunky, or maybe not because that's a little offensive. But he's a bit of a smaller guy, so his speed's pretty great for a catcher too. Again, I think 2025 looks great for Amaya, and I'm very excited to see again in spring training alone what he has to do.